Good morning. Welcome to Books by Ivan. My name is Ivan and I read books. And today, at long last, is the final part of An Ancient Guide to the End of Life. This is an epilogue to How to Die by Seneca. Epilogue. Practice what you preach. Seneca greatly admired Socrates, who met death with equanimity, a scene dramatized by Plato in the dialogue Phaedo. In 1865, Seneca too got an opportunity to put his philosophic ideas into practice, when Nero, his former student and friend, accused him of complicity in a coup attempt and demanded his death. As in the case of Socrates, followers of Seneca were on hand and later described the sage's last hour. Their accounts have perished, but were drawn on by Tacitus in the following passage of the historical chronicle, Annals. Seneca's suicide turned out to be complicated, and Tacitus' description of it is not so affirmative as in Plato's account of the end of Socrates. Readers can judge for themselves whether Seneca achieved the kind of death he had contemplated and prepared for throughout his adult life. Nero. Dispatched to Seneca, centurion, to announce the final necessity. Seneca, unafraid, asked for his will to be brought in. But the centurion forbade this, so he turned to his friend and said that, since he was barred from leaving them a reward suited to what they deserved, he will leave them a single but most beautiful thing, the template of his life, and that if they bore it in their memory, they will win the reputation of good morals as a reward of their friendship with him. He embraced his wife and softened a bit, in contrast to the fortitude he was then displaying. He asked and beseeched that she moderate her grief and not cling to it forever, but soothe her longing for her husband with honorable consolation by thinking about the virtuous conduct of his life. She, however, insisted that death had been decreed for her as well, and demanded a blow of the executioner's hand. Seneca, not opposed to her having a share of glory, and also out of love, lest he abandon to injury a woman who had been so singly devoted to him, said, I've shown to you the delights of life, but you prefer the honor of death. I won't begrudge you your good example. Let the resolve of this brave exit be equal between us both, though let your death have a greater share of renown. After he'd said this, they opened their arms with the same stroke of the sword. Seneca's body was old and reduced by his meager diet, and allowed his blood only a slow release. So he slashed the veins of his shins also and inside his knees, exhausted by cruel suffering, and fearing lest his pain breaks his wife's spirit or lest he himself lose his grip and become unable to bear the sight of her torment, he persuaded her to remove herself into a separate room. Then, since his eloquence still had out, as each moment passed, he dictated a number of things to the scribes who had been summoned. As his death was continuing its long, slow course, Seneca asked of Statius Aeneas, a man who had proved himself a loyal friend and a skilled doctor, to produce the draught of poison he had prepared long before, the poison by which those condemned in Athenian state trials were executed. It was brought, and he drank it, but to no purpose, for his limbs were cold and his body was not receiving the force of the poison. Finally, he entered a pool of hot water and sprinkling the nearest of his slaves. He said that he was making the liquid of liberation of thanks to Jupiter, the liberator. Then, after he'd been dragged into a bath and suffocated by steam, he was cremated without any funeral ceremony. That was what he had instructed in his will when, while still a very wealthy and powerful man, he had planned out his last rites. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of An Ancient Guide to the End of Life. This book taught me to not be afraid of death, but to prepare for it, to live life at its fullest as if today is your last. And I must say, Seneca's last moments were beautiful. It had a charm to it, a charm that I found beautiful. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this beautiful book. My name is Ivan, and this was An Ancient Guide to the End of Life. How to Die by Seneca. Bye, and have a good day.